专业名家汇集，市场大势解析，投资痛点事宜，时下热点直击。欢迎收看房东网名家讲坛。
大家好，这里是58Home 房东网名家讲坛。名家讲坛致力用专业的态度、专业的角度、专业的声音，解决村友的困惑和痛点。今天我们特别高兴地请到了 Judi Paré、Plentitude Founder and President， 跟我们一起就有关地产投资方面的一些深度的一些问题进行一番畅谈。And can we talk about something about construction loan? Because that's thing that happened since last year. That there's some assignments recently that construction loan could be the things actually behind that.
It is.
Those, yeah.
So getting construction financing right now is very difficult. We have a lot of developers that can't move forward because the landscape is tough. We have this housing crisis where we have the government saying we want to build more houses. And then we have financial institutions that say we don't want the risk of construction, so we're not going to lend you money. Right? So they're playing against each other, and who's winning? Nobody's winning. Nobody's winning right now because we've got developments that aren't being developed. They're being sat on. Nobody's developing them. In fact, developers are losing a lot of money right now, and they're choosing to not build, which is putting an even greater strain on our economy. Right? So it's
on
kind
the
of
supply demand there.
On the supply demand. It's almost the horse before the cart and vice versa, right? So for me, what we did, because we're experiencing it as well, we're developers, and we're experiencing that a lot. So what we decided was we're fortunate. Not everybody has this ability. We're very fortunate because we've structured ourselves in a way that we can bring in private equity. We can bring in owners, additional owners, limited partners. So we've structured ourselves in a way that we can finance our own construction, right? So if we bring in partners and they fund the construction, I'm not beholden to the lender. I can actually pull my private lenders together, put them in an equity position, give them a rate of return that's attractive, like 15 to 18%, which is very attractive, and I can control my own situation, right? So that was really important to us, and we just did this in the last year because construction financing got very difficult. It got very difficult to get. We have a subdivision that we're building right now, and we had construction financing, and in the middle of weeks before getting the money, the lender pulled it and said, no, we're not lending on construction right now. They made an internal decision in their organization that they weren't going to do construction. So so it was a B lender. An A lender, but B lender. It's not one of the top fives, but it's a bank that gives construction financing. And they're very well known for it. And they decided that they were at risk. They didn't, because people are challenged right now, they said, you know what, that's too much risk for us. We're not going to lend in construction financing right now. We're going to just pull back, or we're going to lower the amount of lending we do. And because we had the commitment, but we didn't have their money yet, it was easy for them to revoke it. So looking at our portfolio and how we can manage that, we decided to launch our own mutual fund trust. And we said, we're going to do this ourselves. We have a great pool of lenders and investors. So we said, well, hey, let's do it ourselves. We have the right resources. We have the right people and investors that are construction friendly, right? Because they know that this is what we do. So we decided we would fund it ourselves. And that was a big shift for us. But it was necessary. Not everybody can do that. We're fortunate. We're in the position that we can do that, but not everybody can. And I think it's important to understand, especially if you've lent on a project. It's important to understand that developers have to sort of pause right now. And a lot of people are frustrated with the fact that development isn't moving forward. But if you look at it from their point of view, the build is the highest risk. So in order to protect your money, developers are saying, you know, I think I can wait a bit. I think I can pause because the risk outweighs the reward. So some people are taking a pause and saying, I'm not going to put the shovel in the ground in September. I'm going to wait until the spring and see what happens with the market. You know, so don't be too discouraged if you're in a project right now that doesn't seem like it's moving forward. Typically, the developer, they have a fiduciary responsibility to you. So sometimes their decisions to pause are actually in your best interest. And in their best interest. Because if they keep moving forward, and lenders aren't giving money, the project's going to stall anyway. So sometimes it's an interesting time. I've never experienced this. I did experience it a little bit during COVID. Because I built 3 luxury homes in the middle of a supply chain issue, and it was difficult.
That was kind of a global challenge.
It was a global challenge. We couldn't get things. Finding appliances. Oh my gosh, you're building homes that have to have appliances, but you can't find appliances. So, yeah, I think the whole construction financing thing is a bit tricky right now. We've mitigated that as well. In a way, because we're working with CMHC on a lot of our developments. We're working with CMHC directly because we focus on affordable housing. So all of those developments, we're already working with the government who's pre-qualifying us for the funding and then ensuring that funding with banks. So because of the way we do things, it's easier for us. For those projects. The ones that are not affordable housing, we've decided to take on ourselves because we can't get the lending.
So you have to carefully categorize or analyze the property types there. You mentioned that it's kind of difficult to get the construction loan approval there. Is that typically 70 to 80%? It's kind of a crucial threshold there.
You're getting a lot less, actually. You get around 65 to 75% of the construction, and it's the construction cost. Loan to cost is different than loan to value. Okay? So they'll give you the construction cost up to a certain percentage, but not the loan to value. So that's important to know. You always, as a builder, need to have 25% minimum in your construction costs before you qualify, right? There's also something else that you have to have. The cities and municipalities typically want a letter of credit. And let's say my servicing for a subdivision cost me $3 million, because that's what it's costing me right now on a project. It's $3 million. They want you to give them $3 million to the municipality, but they also want you to have $3 million. So I have to have the money twice, right? For them to qualify me for the mortgage, the city wants their development fees and they want their servicing fees or a letter of credit, because they don't want you to start and then you can't finish.
You cannot get your sustainable efforts there. You have to stop.
Yeah, and so then what happens to the city is they have to finish. So they want you to have your letters of credit with them, and they want their dollars and their deposits. So one city we're working in, we need $3 million. Just to put the shovel in the ground and to get the data lines in and to get the sewers in and to do all of that stuff for this subdivision. But our lender wants us to see that they want to see the $3 million as well. So I needed to have $6 million to spend $3 million because the city wants it and your bank wants it.
That's actually double.
So you're double dipping. And you do get it back. But so when you say it's, 70, 80%, you actually have to think about it's actually closer to 65. Right? Because you're putting out more money in that phase, particularly in the beginning. When you're doing the servicing before the buildings go up. You need to have more money up front. And the way you get more money is through private equity, is bring in partners or through private lenders. A lot of private lenders will lend greater than the land value. They'll lend on future value, but it's very expensive money, so your project has to support it.
Well, thank you. All those comments are really, really great. That could help our investors in the future that for their real estate investment there as well. On top of it, that we know that you have extensive experience, you have remarkable achievements in your real estate investment there. On top of it, that you're also a very successful person that coaching real estate investment there. Let's talk about something about yourself, about your coaching.
So I've coached probably 2,000 or 3,000 people in the last 8 years. I was fortunate enough for the last 8 years to be coaching on a one-on-one basis and on a group basis. So I've done group coaching, and every month, for example, we'll develop content and teach a concept. And then twice that month, we'll have a session where the folks can come in after they've learned it and ask questions and do group coaching. So we do it on a group coaching. But I also have done one-on-one coaching to real estate investors. We've got... I'm very proud of the fact that a lot of the people that I've coached have become very successful real estate investors themselves. Like most have had success and have found success or reached their goals, whether it's just to have one income property or whether it's to build subdivisions. Like I've coached people from just getting out of consumer proposals or bankruptcy and getting back into getting credit and helping them so that they can get back on their feet, but also helping people that are building communities. So it's been a fun journey for me. It's a lot more fun when you see their successes. I've had a lot of really great students that have come out on top and have had excellent success. So I'm very proud of that.
Thank you. The one of the Australian former hockey coach, and he once mentioned that the interesting thing about coaching is that you have to trouble the comfortable and comfort the troubled. So how would you customize
my coaching?
Yeah.
That's a really interesting statement. So you have to trouble the comfortable, but comfort the troubled. I call that a come to Judi conversation. So quite often I've had students that are just sort of comfortable. And they're very comfortable. And I've said, I'm thinking of one person in particular right now. He built a home beside his house. They had a couple of parcels of land, and he built this house, and then he was going to sell it. And he was the general contractor. Then he was going to sell it. And he had an opportunity for something else. And I said, well, why don't you build houses? And he said, oh, I'm not a builder. And I said, of course you are. You just built a house. You built a house, and
reality is you are.
So let's just do that again. Oh, no, I don't want to be a builder. I said, but you have all this land. Like if you built it and you did it again, you would grow. I know it's comfortable doing what you're doing, but you could probably grow and expand. And what's interesting about him is he's now developing communities. And this was, 5-6 years ago when he believed he couldn't. It's that whole saying, if you believe you can, you can. If you believe you can't, you can't. Right? So you have to believe it. So when he believed he was a builder and he could build, then he went and did it. But he needed to believe that, and I needed to kind of shake him up a little bit because he was very comfortable doing the same thing, and comforting the troubled. Well, I've helped people, uncouple their portfolio, where there's areas of the portfolio that is very stressed, that is very difficult, and just helping them see it from a different perspective. Sometimes you're so in the weeds that you don't see a way out. When they say you can't see the forest for the trees? This happens a lot to investors when they feel troubled, but they're not looking at it from the exact perspective that they need to. And a lot of people think that because one person said no, that it's a no. I don't know how many people have gone to a bank and the bank says, no, you don't qualify. Well, no, they won't give you the money, but somebody else will. right? So I think it's important that people get coaching and they ask mentors and other people,
Right.
because not everybody knows everything. If I listened to my bank
Right.
for every single thing that I did, I would only get one perspective. So I think it's important that you have a mentor or you have a coach or even a peer group.
Right.
A peer group that you can talk to when you're in trouble. The problem is people never say that they're in trouble. They often just internalize it.
Sometimes it's hard for them to admit.
It's hard for them to admit, but I think it's easier to solve when you say, I have this challenge. Has anybody else had this challenge? And what advice did you get? Or
Right.
how did you overcome this challenge?
Right.
Because what you're going to get is you're going to get a community of people
Right.
that are going to help you.
Right.
Now, don't believe everything you hear. I call it trust then verify. Trust what people are saying. Now verify it
Yep.
with professionals.
Right.
And see whether that solution meets your needs, right? So coaching is really important. Peer mentorship is really important too. And I love that you have this group or this community of people that can chat with each other and ask questions, right? Understand that not everybody's answer is the correct answer, but it's
Right.
still a valid answer.
Right.
And if it's how they got through it, you have to ask yourself, does that relate to me?
Right. Right.
Right? And then go speak to a mentor or somebody else that can help you and say, hey, I got all these great ideas. Which one do you think is best for me?
So talking about the coaching method, or sometimes we say some secret, right? Would you be able to share with us some of your special, or even we can say some unique teaching method that could be beneficial to the whatever that's the people that you're coaching to?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things that I believe in from a coaching perspective is education as well. So when somebody has a situation, what I like to do is educate them first.
Okay.
Right? Like, let's bring in resources and content and information so that they can read the information and they can understand it. And then from there, we get into solution-based coaching. So like, let's identify what the root cause is.
Right.
And then let's apply some solutions to it and see which is the best outcome. Right? So there is no right way to do it because everyone's goal is different.
Right.
And understanding what a person's outcome desire is more important than what the problem is. You have to know what their desired outcome is.
Right.
If their desired outcome is to cash flow, then you got to look at the whole thing and say, well, how can I help them cash flow? If their desired income is wealth management,
Right.
then you have to look at their portfolio and say, how do we help them maintain their wealth?
Right.
What if it's transitioning from active investing to passive investing? Well, now you've got to look at that and say, okay, now we're making a lifestyle change.
Right.
So I think it's really important to look at the outcome. What am I trying to achieve?
Right.
Because everybody's lifestyle is different. Everybody's place where they are in life is different. Like, you and I are not equal. We have different desires and goals. We may be equal as humans, but our financial situations may be completely different and your needs may be different than mine. Like, I don't have a great deal of needs. You know, my kids are grown, they're married, they have their own life, they're educated. But my younger people that I coach, they now have small kids. They have to worry about school. They have to worry about all that.
They're
so I
in
think
that stage, right?
Exactly. And you know, as you get older, you need less money.
Right.
So you can do things more passively. And I heard somebody say you work really hard now so you don't have to later. Like, put in these years now so that you can not put them in later. You know? And I think just to, you know, I'm a big believer that it doesn't take a whole lifetime to generate wealth. I think you can do it in about 5 years.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I think if you can buy one property a year for the next 5 years and you ladder your mortgages, so that each one
As you
becomes
mentioned,
new in 5 years and you roll them over, each year you're going to create an active income for yourself. And you're going to do that. And you don't need to have a portfolio of 500 homes.
Right.
You just need to be very strategic about the ones you have.
So what are the key benefits that those people that you coach to, that they benefit from your coaching there? Are there any one or two cases or example that you may be able to share with us that how successful they became after coaching there?
Yeah, I think the biggest successes are those people that meet their lifestyle freedom day.
Right.
So what they've done is they've calculated how much they need for the lifestyle that they want. And what we typically do is we start with the end in mind. Okay, so what is it you're trying to achieve? How much money do you need?
Right.
That's the biggest question, is how much money do you need to live your best life? The life that you want, that desired lifestyle that you want. And we start with that. And we only do projects or properties that get them closer to that number, right? So we start with the end in mind, and then we reverse engineer the types of properties, the types of investments, the types of things they're going to be doing. Because some people don't necessarily want more money, they want more time.
Right.
So how do I give you back your time? Well, I give you back your time by replacing your income, so that now I can move away from my day-to-day job, having that job, because I have created this passive income stream through my properties or private lending or private equity. So I think it really does come down to lifestyle. I had one gentleman, he kept saying to me that he wanted more properties. And I said, Johnny, you don't need any more properties. And he says, I do. I said, let's go back to that Freedom Day lifestyle that we were working on. Let's go back to your spreadsheet. Let's go back to your end goal. I want you to do these exercises or these activities. Let's do the math. The math doesn't lie. I say this all the time. The math doesn't lie. And so he went back, he did all of his homework that I gave him, and he came back on the next coaching call and he said, I have enough money, I can quit my job. If I adjust this,
that's you say freedom there, right?
That's Freedom Day, is when you don't have to go to work. So the 4 freedoms are time, relationship, purpose, and money, right? So once you get the time and the money under control, now you can start working on how you want to spend that time and how you want to spend that money. So you can pick and choose the relationships you're in. That's including your employer. Right? Am I going to continue to be in this relationship with this employer? The second thing is, the last one is freedom of purpose. Now I've got all this freedom of time, money, relationship. What am I going to do? What am I going to give back? And that's where purpose comes in. And I think that's really important. And if you can, when I'm coaching, I want people to have a balance of all 4. Because that's real freedom.
And when you have a freedom of time there, actually you may want to spend to see how you can spend it back more meaningfully.
Exactly. And where that's where that purpose comes in, right? Like I've reached my goal. So now I want to do affordable housing. I want to give back. For me, affordable housing is really important, and it's something that's critical in our existing housing crisis, is to provide more homes. So for me, it's like, I don't need to go build more communities to get richer. I'm fine. I don't need a lot of money. Now I can go do things that are more affordable. They may not be more profitable from a conventional business perspective, but I'm still building net worth and generational wealth because
actually benefits something else.
Because it's those other ways to win, right? It's not cash flow, significant cash flow, but it's getting that principal paid down. It's giving back to my communities. It's making sure people aren't living in poverty in the future. So that's where that purpose comes in. It may not drive the biggest revenues for me personally, because I give more revenue to my investors than I give to me, because I don't need it. Right?
Those are really some very good comments there. When we talk about the coaching there, from your extensive and also very successful teaching career there, can we say, what are the typical black hole or even some mindset that you said that you found some students may have typically?
I think going back to the abundance and scarcity mindset, I I think that people believe that there's only one deal. You know, it's this property or nothing, or it's that property or nothing. And there's enough opportunities to go around. So the biggest challenge I've ever had with people is their mindset, of scarcity versus abundance. I mean, our company name is called Plentitude, which means abundance.
Right.
And, you know, you need to have an abundant mindset to move forward. One of the biggest things, the biggest mistake people make, I think, in real estate is inaction. They don't take action, or they take action when they shouldn't. So you get that analysis by
Either
paralysis.
way, right.
Yeah. So you're paralyzed because you're analyzing too much.
Right.
Or it's like, well, it breaks even, or it's cash flow positive, and but there's a better deal around the corner. And so they don't take action. So I think that people who do the best are people that look at their goals, they look at the property or the investment, and they say, this is aligned to my goal.
Right.
And I'm going to take action. The people that fail are the ones that transact and are not strategic. So they just go and they buy, and they don't align it to their goals. So when you're looking at the big picture, and I always tell people, you don't need to just buy. You need to answer the question, why are you buying this? Why are you doing this transaction? Why are you investing in this deal or this opportunity? How is it aligned to your goal? If you can answer that question, I'm going to give you the green light. I'm going to say, okay, go ahead, go do this. But if you're answering the question, I want to get in now because there's not going to be any other opportunity, you have the wrong mindset. So you're just transacting.
You're actually talking about some term discipline there, right?
Yeah,
right,
it is discipline. Right. And it really, and I always say the math doesn't lie.
Right.
So do the math. If the math works and it gets you closer to your to your goal, then transact. Then do the transaction. Make sure it's strategically aligned to what your personal goals are. Your goals are different than anybody else's, right? It's very personal.
Right.
Just because your friend is doing it doesn't mean you should do it.
Right.
Just because your uncle did it or your dad did it.
It doesn't necessarily mean that you're supposed to do it.
Exactly. It has to be aligned to you. Investing is very unique. It's very personal.
Right.
So I think, I had somebody ask me once, Judi, I've spent a whole year coaching with you. And I've done all of these deals, and I've brought all these deals to you, and I haven't done anything yet, and I haven't transacted. What do you think the problem is? And I said, well, the problem is you.
And yourself.
Said, it's you. You're holding yourself back. Because you won't take the next step. It's your fear of failing that's holding you back. You've had all the deals. And I said to him, don't come to your next coaching session without an offer of purchase. You know how to do the math. You know how to analyze a deal. Go do a deal. And then come back to me. You know what you qualify for. You know all of these things. You are the problem. And it's your fear that's holding you back. And so once he got over that, he went and he transacted. They have a really lovely property in Kingston, Ontario. It's a fourplex that they now have as a student rental. They're doing all of the right things, and he's very successful at it. A few days later, his wife called me and said, thank you so much. Because he wouldn't take action. And they were every day saying, but this one works. And he's like, no, I don't think it's perfect enough. He was waiting for perfection.
It actually reminds us some humorous saying that people holding optimistic characteristics, and they may make some mistakes from time to time. However, that for the people who really remarkably successful are those people who hold the optimistic characteristics.
Well, sure, I make mistakes all the time. How do you learn if you don't make mistakes, right? You have to take on some risk. And sometimes you're gonna knock it out of the park. And sometimes you're only gonna get to first base. It's okay to get to first base. At least you swung the bat. You don't have to have a home run every time, so long as you're winning and it's getting you closer to your goal.
So you were talking about the very, very good term called the discipline. That actually reminds us, Warren Buffett once mentioned, we don't have to be smarter than the rest. We have to be more disciplined than the rest. That's all.
That's exactly true.
Right.
You do have to employ those disciplines. I also say you're the average of the 5 people you hang out with the most. So if you're hanging out with people that are underachieving, you will become that average.
Right.
I never want to be the smartest person in a room. Ever. I want to be in a room where I can learn and where I can grow. Right. So you don't want to be, I'm not saying go out and change all your friends.
Right.
But put yourself in a room with people who are going to elevate your knowledge.
Right.
Whether that's through training or education or your peer network, understand that they rub off on you.
Whichever way they can lift you up.
Exactly.
From this level to whatever.
Exactly, because you always want to be growing. And as a real estate investor, if you're in a group of people that have a negative mindset and a mindset of scarcity instead of a mindset of abundance, you're never going to grow. You're
because
always going to be
gradually
afraid.
you may be impacted or influenced,
Yeah, exactly.
Or to some even dominated by those
Sure.
by those opinions.
Sure. And they're gonna impact your decision making.
Right.
So you want to be around optimistic people. My glass is always half full, and if it gets a little bit lower, I just pour more in it, and that means by hanging out with people that lift me up. Right? Because optimism is a really important piece of mindset. And I think that the ones that succeed are the ones that believe they can succeed. If you, like I said earlier,
that's a very good wording there, right?
If you think you can, you will. If you think you can't, you won't. So it is a mindset thing. And surrounding yourself with the right people.
Thank you.
专业名家汇集，市场大势解析，投资痛点事宜，时下热点直击。欢迎收看房东网名家讲坛。